Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Thomas Lane. Thomas is an author, a poet, and a musician. He has written multiple books. He has written The Karma Factor, is what we're going to be focusing on today, The Artist Manifesto. He also has a book of poems, and he has a CD and a nonprofit organization. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy you're here.
Thanks for having me.
So, I'm going to jump right in
Go
and
for
talk about the karma factor because I'm somebody who's very spiritual, and you don't really find a book like yours that kind of touches on the spirituality and also having this deep, meaty story, which is quite fascinating.
it.
So let's talk about what inspired you to write The Karma Factor.
Uh, you know, there's not one answer. There were like so many
Yeah.
different vectors. I would say I was raised in a house which was heavy with intellectual, three PhDs, uh,
Wow.
Harvard, Yale. My dad taught at Harvard. Mom, who was an activist par none. She was amazing. She also was PhD, and she did a lot of writing as well. Growing up in that environment with all that going on, I I wouldn't have been able to name it back then when I was
Mm,
a kid, but there was a lot of suffering in that family. And I came in this lifetime with some other perspective. And when I looked at that, even though it was at the top of the totem pole in a
mm,
certain way, I didn't want it. And I had to go off and I was into sports and other
mm.
kinds of stuff. But I found my way looking for something else. And then I came upon stories like Peter Pan and where he flies, or
Right.
The Hobbit. My fourth grade teacher read The Hobbit out loud to the class.
Oh, how nice.
Woo! And it was just all of a sudden doors began opening about the possibilities of life, the possibilities of seeing something completely different than somebody else, and they can all be true. And so growing up with that, also being, just a regular guy, I like rock and roll, I like mischief, I like typical male stuff. But I had this other thing going on too. And so sort of as I left sports, I became interested in folk singing. I was a guitar player and a songwriter and did all that. And then that translated into writing. So I had sort of a background in adventure stories and noirs and cops and robbers. And yet this other thing that
Yeah.
was thinking, it's a bit like a broken record that keeps playing the same song over and over, and you want to take the needle off the record and say, how about looking at it from this way? And
Right.
this prompted me into the spiritual realm,
Mm,
um, to look at what might be possible. And so I sort of all things collided or came together
mm.
under one roof when I found out about the Akashic records and the possibilities. Oh my God, a database of past lives, and as we had discussed before, I didn't know the
Yeah.
depth of the Akashic records, but I
Yeah.
knew it could be used like an expanded profile
Yeah.
for, what did you do on October 12th, 1827? Well, I had this. And who did you cheat on? Who did you murder? All this kind of stuff from all over,
Yeah.
from all this database. And so how would that play if a cop chasing a serial killer, not to give it away, but knew he wanted to come out, instead of jailing him or executing the bad guy,
Hmm.
change him so that the karma of the individual was actually addressed. And I just played with that idea, and I wrote many drafts of it and possible movie and all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah.
then I had the courage to, because the big deals didn't happen after so many years, I just said, okay, I'm hearing the clarion call now that
Yeah.
we're all hearing about doing something a little bit more uh, risky or out of the comfort zone or something to help out a little more.
Hmm.
I decided to self-publish, and I'm actually a hybrid. Uh, I work with a hybrid publisher, and I get to meet people like you and talk the stuff that I'm really interested in, and here we are.
That was a great answer. So I want to take a step from that and tell me a little bit more about the clarion call.
Ah, Well, I have, ever since I was telling you about as a youngster,
Yeah.
and I would not have come up with these words, but I've been an outsider. I've been without a group, without a community really,
Hmm.
but but also just very trying to observe what was going on. And so I pulled back, and when I was off the grid, I didn't like grow a beard and live in the woods and have birds flying out of, my hair, but um I was able to, because I had enough money and enough time, that I just created and created and created.
Hmm.
And over time, when we started hitting global warming and the racial violence, all these things that are exploding on the surface that have been there for millennia, probably,
Exactly. Hmm.
these problems of working with the other, with
Hmm.
tribal stuff and all that. Um, I just felt like I had this organization named after my mother. Helen Hudson was her pen name, and it was working with the homeless largely.
Hmm.
But as there became so much noise from so many different sectors, I decided, well, that I had to do something. I had to do something more, and I was very reluctant to step out into the world and be a somebody.
Yeah.
Much happier being anonymous and in my cocoon. But that was how I heard it. Is just it's an all hands on deck
Yeah.
situation. There are a million different decks. Everybody's got a different step,
Hmm.
and this was mine, which is to get this published and start talking about these things, which just hopefully provide an alternative to what is going on now. Like
No,
what?
absolutely. I think that's a beautiful way to say it, and you're so right. Especially with what's going on right now, it's definitely a call for healers and all sorts of people. It doesn't matter if you're a healer, an artist, creative,
Right.
just you have that inner burning inside of you that you know
Got
that
it.
there's something more. And you're right. It's all hands on deck, and we're all part of cogs of a wheel. We all have our own role to
Yes.
play, and I think
Yeah.
that's cool. So tell us a little bit about the book's premise without giving too much away and how its wider message for humanity fits with it.
Well, my hero is a cop,
Hmm.
and he is metaphorically he's in a uniform that doesn't fit him at all,
Yeah.
and he is has this secret life where he's tortured with images from past, from things he did wrong. He doesn't know what it is, um, and he wants to take himself out. He finally
Mhm.
says, "I can't stand this." Nobody knows. Everybody thinks he's a hotshot
Yeah.
detective, got everything wired. Ladies love him, solves cases. Um, and so he steps into, I'll just give this one little bit away.
Sure.
He steps in, he sets it up. So he has one bullet left in his chamber, and he's going into a criminal with an itchy finger on the trigger, and he goads him. He goads him into having to shoot him.
Hmm.
But when the bullets are fired at point blank range, couldn't miss him. The bullets are suddenly disappear and end up in New Mexico.
I know that
And
was so interesting. I was like, oh, I like that.
oh, it's fun to write. And he looks into those eyes of the corpse now, and he says, "Oh, I wish there this tunnel of your pupil. I wish it was big enough I could walk through it, find out where you are now." Anyway, this leads to a whole.
Yeah.
He's been saved. He doesn't know why he's been saved, and now his quest becomes: if I've been given this second chance, what am I supposed to do with it? And
Yeah.
this launches him into inquiry into previous lifetimes, perceptions that he wasn't willing to experience. And all of a sudden, he begins morphing into this hybrid between
Hmm.
cop and Buddhist monk.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So let's talk about, you just said that past lives. So reincarnation is at the center of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in past lives?
I do. You?
I like that. So, how did you come to that belief, and how has it affected your relationship in this present life?
That's really a good one. Um, First of all, there is and to be totally honest, there is a skepticism about it.
Mm,
Oh, past lives, oh, that allows me to think that I will come back again, and it's a
right.
very hopeful kind of thing, and that's user friendly and all that. Um, but ultimately, when I just looked at my own self and people I knew, my brother and I, different, very
Mhm.
different from the same family. What is the active ingredient here? What is the thing that allows to be in the same environment, two people to be so different? And for me, it just made a lot of sense
Mhm.
ultimately that there are things from my childhood that I've been burdened with, but there are also things earlier.
Absolutely.
And those things I'm carrying forward, and my drill, how it affects me this lifetime, is to work that stuff out.
Yeah.
And family is a big component part of that. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of karma that gets worked out in families or not. And it isn't like, you know, I was a big famous person. I was Teddy Roosevelt, or I was, you know, Genghis Khan. It's past lifetimes have gotten a bad name because people use it egoically rather than,
Yes.
you know. But I think, you know, it's like for me, pursuing possibilities is
Mhm.
a mandate for me. I just look at it that way, that we're kind of like living in a mansion, but only occupying one room in that mansion. And there's this, these are other
Yeah.
realms that are available, and some of them are past lifetimes. And so I've just decided that it works for me, and I'd like to know more.
Yeah, I think that is a really good way to put it, that you're living in one room of your mansion. You
Yeah,
know, I am an Akashic record practitioner,
yeah,
and I love to work in the records. And the thing about past lives is, and what I like to work with my clients, and you're doing this in the book, it's, you know, you look at what are these patterns and these beliefs and these traumas that impacted you in past lives that we do carry
yeah,
forward. If you do not resolve that, and I'm not sure if you believe this, I do believe if you do not resolve a lesson, or if there's some trauma that you haven't resolved, it's going to
yeah.
come into this lifetime.
Oh, I totally believe
Yeah. And I think it's louder and louder and louder, and
it.
it's going to smack you right in your face.
Well, that was the key then, the serial killer guy,
Yeah.
that we had to go back 300 years to find
Yeah.
out where it started. And the other thing I want to say is there's also, and this is true for me, that the past lifetimes can also have good karma,
Absolutely.
wonderfully strong, beautiful things that we
Mhm.
can carry forward. And that becomes the fertile soil of self-realization of both the good and the bad.
That is so true, because I don't know about when I'm doing my spiritual work, or I may be meditating, or I'm trying to tap into something that, you know, it feels a little outside of my reach. I'll go into my heart space, and I'll call on myself from the past, present, and future to bring in that knowledge with
Yeah.
my team to kind of help me master it and to achieve it. And I'm like, I have way too many books, but I do like that. And I also pull forward the ancestor. So, well, the
Mm.
ancestor that's going to help me to maybe be brave, or help me to not feel hopeless, or,
Yeah.
you know, I just love being able to call in that team. And, you know, you kind of do that within your book, which is really
Oh,
cool.
that's really, thank you. I'm glad it happens.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, we could talk for hours about the Akashic records.
Yep.
So, what do you feel is the most important message in your book?
Well, I'm going to probably sound like a broken record, but
Not at
just,
all.
okay, good. Um, just being open to possibility.
Yeah, I think that it's you. Yeah, I know you can say that, like changing possibilities and rewriting your life, and really kind of, you know, going from a hopeless situation to a positive situation, and yeah, explore the possibilities. That's gonna be the name of this.
Okay, that sounds good to me. And you know, I mean, the I have come to look at it as the lens through which
Mhm.
we view things. And there's habitual energy, which will just, you always see this kind of thing. You always see the negative, or you always see,
Yeah.
and to be able to have a little space there and step back and say, you know, I don't have to go there. I can, I can, I was just doing it, like sitting here when before we
Yeah.
went on, looking at a tree outside my window. And I went, you know, I could see that as this, as a living, breathing
Mm.
thing that is just landed here, or I could see it as a tree, or I could see it. There's just so many different ways that, and there's, you know, it's just that the possibilities of life are just vast, and it's malleable. Is you don't have to follow the gravitational pull of where you
Yeah.
usually go,
Yeah.
and that's been a terribly important lesson for me too. And I have to keep reminding myself
Hmm.
because I watch myself follow certain patterns.
It's so true. I think sometimes we get in the machine of life
Yeah,
and we kind of get on our blinders, and then I think it's, I'm like you. I'll look outside my window and I'll look and I'll be like, wow, that tree's beautiful. And just having an attitude of gratitude, I mean, it helps us to rise up, raise up our vibration, and helps us to feel more positive. It creates more healing around us. But to appreciate just the simple simplicity of life,
yeah,
is also important.
terribly important.
Yeah, like I think that's so cool that you're looking. I honestly just this morning I looked out, I walked by my tree and I'm like, I love you, tree. I have this one tree I just love. It's my
Beautiful.
fairy tree.
Why
So
not? Why not?
I know it's so cool. So tell me about what is your vision for the world with the karma factor? What are you hoping for when somebody picks this up that they gain from it?
Um, well, first, that they have fun reading it, that it's just a couple hours or
Yeah,
whatever long, how long it takes. It's a big book, right? Did you
it
enjoy
is a big
it?
book.
It's kind of an event. Um, that is fun to read, and it pulls you along, and you want to catch the bad guy, and you want the relationship to work out, and all the various things. It's got layers. It's got a hierarchy of spiritual people. Again, I think that there is a transformation that my guy had to go through
Mhm.
because he was challenged, and because he decided, instead of sort of giving into it, and he was helped because the bullets disappeared,
Yeah.
but he was helped. But he could have done a lot of things. He could have gone mad, ended up in a loony bin. He could have, and he made that choice. And the freedom of choice is a big part of, also, of seeing, of opening opportunities,
Mhm.
being aware of opportunities, that you can not take this thing, but you can take that thing. And I think if I can even chip away a sliver of compulsive, reactive kind of behavior that people take away from this book, would be extraordinarily wonderful for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are very much a knee-jerk society.
Yeah.
We don't take a step back to like just think before we react. My motto where I work at is like, let's be proactive, not let's not
Yep.
be reactive, because so many people are like, ah.
I know.
I run a doctor's office. That's why I bring it up. People can be woo
Yep.
fun. So tell me a little bit about the artist manifesto.
Oh, this goes back a while,
Mhm.
15 years, something like that. Um, and me as a struggling artist, trying to get a record deal, trying to get published, trying and hanging out with artists, sitting in coffee shops and backstage at concerts, whatever. And the talk was just filled with grievances, really, that they couldn't get going. They couldn't. The culture didn't want them.
Aw,
The the record companies were not looking for great material. They're looking for commercial material.
right.
And it's an industry, it's a business, so they have to make money. But it was this, I came away feeling, just after a sort of a loose survey of artists, was that, we've given up our country, the arts, to lawyers and businessmen, whatever. We don't own the arts anymore because
Yeah.
they have the money. And so I hired a marketing company, went out and surveyed artists, and it was dancers, stand-up comedians, poets, all these
Yeah.
people. And interestingly enough, there wasn't so much interest in connecting all the arts into one thing, that the ballet people had their separate homes and writers. And
Mhm.
so anyway, so I wrote this. It was like a manifesto, just like pushing back about artists. We need to like have more communication, work together. We need to understand business
Yeah.
more. This was written for me too, because I was equally at fault for, but there's a lot of artists that don't read the contracts they sign,
Right.
and they get screwed, pardon my French. Um, and it was just pushing back about this. If you look at a perception of all over the planet, these millions of people that are artists or would consider themselves artists, even school teachers who do it, handle
Yeah,
with thought and great passion and care, that becomes an art. And that if we had more connection, we would be able to mobilize and address causes,
right.
progressive causes in my place, as a sovereignty, as a united sovereignty of the arts. Anyway, it was a dream, but it sold every book.
That's
Um,
really cool. I really like that. And it is, you bring up a valid point of a lot of artists don't own their art.
right.
Like they don't own, like, let's say they're a musician. How many artists you know that don't own their catalog of
Yeah.
music?
Yeah.
It's sad. Like, look at what was it? Michael Jackson owned part of the Beatles.
Yeah.
Like, how is that even right?
I don't know. There's so many stories about Jimi Hendrix, among all kinds of people who basically gave their publishing away and then ended up destitute.
Right. And it's like, wow, they were able to provide so much love and happiness and
Yeah.
inspiration for millions of
God.
people. And then it's
Oh
like, who's
God.
looking out for them?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's such a time for artists to rise up, and I think it's happening. I really do.
Yeah. That's really cool. I'm is that on now? Are you rewriting that or is that something that you can okay. So and then when it are you gonna self-publish that after it's rewritten?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Come on now, Thomas.
I'm on chapter 3. Thank you very much.
Rachel's pressuring you. No, I have there's a lot of energy that's coming in just for that. Like I'm like, woo,
Yeah.
that's gonna be amazing. It really is. Okay.
Thank you for
So
asking.
you're also a singer-songwriter with a CD
Right.
called Hotel Earth.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
So I have done demos. I've had my almost record deals. I had a publishing deal when I was 15. Uh, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna score big in this world. And I
Yeah.
never got the record deal. And I turned one down actually, because they wanted me to do something that was totally against my aesthetics. But as part of this renaissance that I
Mhm.
decided to have, I took 12 songs and I cobbled them together and came up with the concept of Hotel Earth. I had written a song called Hotel Earth,
Mhm.
and the chorus goes, uh, oh, what does the chorus go?
We're
I
putting you on
say
the
I've
spot.
laid,
Tell us now.
laid on the fire escape looking for higher ground. The
Ooh,
powers that be are digging black holes, tearing my rainbows down. That's the first verse.
I like that.
Um, but anyway, and this became the title song of what I consider to be a story.
Mhm.
Story. Each song doesn't have a literal story, and you would be a hard time. But a lot of them could become pieces of the book of the Karma Factor. In fact,
Nice.
there's a love song, a past lifetime love song. There's the Hotel Earth song, which I told you about.
Mhm.
Um, there's one that's for women to rise up because I'm tired of men and their testosterone and all. Let's get some parity going here, folks. All these kind of issues. And I spent 3 years getting this album done, and I had tremendous help and support from other players and
Mhm.
arrangers and took 3 years, and then I finished it. And then again, I didn't know what to do with it, so it's sitting in my, it's on Spotify and the
Oh,
other.
nice.
Hotel Earth by Tracker. Tracker is my stage name, who's also a character in the book.
How did you come up with the name Tracker?
Ah, because he tracks.
You're like, oh, da 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 da.
Because in terms of how I have always seen the brand of Tracker, is that his job is to be a little bit out in front and be scouting about what's up ahead, what's dangerous, what's beautiful, what's cool, what's awful, and reporting back to anyone who would listen. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Oh, that's really cool. Tell us a little bit about the Helen Hudson Foundation
Ah,
and your work within the organization.
okay. So here's the story. My mom, we go back to my mom, who was a published writer, a relentless activist,
Uh-huh.
um, a very unhappy person, but a wonderful person. And she would do all these various volunteer work
Hmm.
with progressive causes. She marched against the war. She went to Selma. She recorded for the blind. She wrote letters to prisoners, and she worked in soup kitchens. And while she was working in the soup kitchens, this is in the 90s, she got interested in the guests, and she would set up a little tape recorder in a dust closet wherever she could find a little space and interview them. And she got all these wonderful, amazing stories. Her publisher didn't want to publish it. She had a manuscript called Dinner at Six, Voices from the Soup Kitchen.
I like
And
that name.
so, oh, it's wonderful. And I read it and I was really moved and I was really pissed that our publisher didn't want to do it. So I proposed, let's publish it ourselves.
Right.
Let's print it, and let's instead of being a commercial thing, let's do a raising money and awareness campaign. So what we did is give the books to soup kitchens so they could resell them and they would keep the money. Mom didn't want a dime. And I was like the one-man band that would kind of just find out about a soup kitchen, give them a call, talk to them, drive, load up my trunk with books and go over to them and hand them out or send them out to Omaha or wherever the need was. And it was really successful. We had about 100 organizations. We raised tens of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
For it. And it's called the Helen Hudson Foundation. You can find that online. Hudson was her pen name. And so when I came up to Providence, where I live, Providence, Rhode Island, my mom passed away. I started this organization in her honor to carry on the legacy and continued the book campaign until it was kind of ran out of gas for some reason. But there were all these other, as I said, all these other voices having to do with the arts and all the various issues now. And so we basically, I've just been a philanthropist. I think that word.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not even going to try because I'll stumble on it.
Okay, well, it's a good thing this isn't live. Philanthropist. I
there
guess
you go.
Yeah. So I write checks every now and then. I'm working with one particular homeless organization funding. They have an outreach program where they have storytellers from people who were homeless. They go out and talk in schools and whatever. Anyway, I'm so fortunate. This is my grandparents' money that stayed in trust. And I get to give money to UNICEF and Doctors Without Borders and Me Too and Planned Parenthood and just anybody.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
That's really amazing. So we're going to shift back to the karma factor.
Okay.
And where can the audience find this book?
Amazon, for sure, and Barnes and Noble. They can also go to my website, which is, strangely enough, it's thomaslane.com. Surprise. Isn't that coincident? It's got my name on it.
Wow. Something tells me you're a little bit of a joker.
Me? I think
so another question. The book does read like a movie. Are there any plans for it to become a film version?
Yes, there are. I don't know where that exactly stands now, but I have an option deal for a movie.
That is amazing. Anything else that you would like to share with the audience, maybe in regards to, spirituality and about your book or anything, just because like you said in the beginning, we're kind of all being called to the mat and there is this inner, kind of, all right, guys, it's time to get going. Any advice you might be willing to share with the audience?
Well, this is stuff that I tell myself all the time, which is take whatever step you feel you need to take to be helpful. I mean, that could be waving to the postman. That could be getting out there with a sign to protest. That could be writing your congressman. That could just be meditating a little bit more to be part of the movement. We need vast amounts of energy to counteract what has the damage that's already been done. But it's, crisis equals opportunity. I totally believe in that. But it's coming down to us, to make this, as I say in one of my poems, the long arc of consequence has finally arrived and chosen us to be the final word and bend down to heal this wounded miracle and listen to the voice beyond that says, time has come, time to listen and decide.
Oh, I like that. The long arm of consequence.
Long arc of
Long
consequence.
arc. Sorry.
Oh,
Long
it's okay.
arc consequence. I like it. That's a really good.
I can send you the video.
Yes,
if
please do.
that.
I'll make sure to link it up with this episode.
Okay.
So, Thomas, thank you so much for joining us on the Spiritual Spotlight series. Everyone, make sure to check out the Karma Factor. Be on the lookout for the Artist Manifesto. Check out his CD, his poetry book, everything else that Thomas has going on, which is a lot. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's been really fun. And thanks for
Fun.
what you do.